Go. Harrison
Well,
Ford, dude, how did that feel when he's like, yeah, this kid's got
surreal.
it?
Um, you know that laugh cry that sometimes you can do to where it's like you just two cocktail of emotions just kind of fit into one. I had that moment. Todd Howard and I were standing off in the wings at Jeff Keighley's show, the Game Awards, and we knew that Harrison was going to be there with us, but we were off here and he was on his mark behind the stage. And when he walked out, and I think it was seeing the crowd's response to him
Oh,
and him
right.
walk out, I was like, this is real. Like, this is happening. And, they're always like, we have to have a script for him. He's like, he's not going to say any of that. And sure enough, he waved off the teleprompter and just spoke from the heart and off the cuff. And my favorite moment was actually backstage. We're kind of there on the little step and repeat, and we're taking pictures together, and we're side by side. And I said, man, this is one of the hardest jobs I've ever had to do. And he goes, why? And I said, I had to be you for 3 years.
Oh,
And I said, but it sure as hell was worth it.
yeah.
And he just smiled. And it was just like to get that charming smile that we've seen for decades flashed in your face. I was like, please put this on the highlight reel.
Dude,
uh,
when I see Harrison Ford on the screen being Indiana Jones, I'm like, that's awesome. But when I'm playing your performance of that character, I also get to be Indiana Jones. I also got to be Kanji Tatsumi. I didn't get to be enough Pagan Min. I thought that was such a great role. I mean, I loved that game and the way that you could just so cleverly skip it at the beginning of the game. I mean, like
he's
just
not a bad guy.
no, just
People tell me all the time, is like, you're a great villain. I was like, I've never played a villain in my entire life. Never played a villain. He says it from the onset. Wait here, enjoy the
right.
crab rangoon. I'll be right back and we'll go bury your mother. The whole reason why you're here, we can do that. You're the psychopath that decided he wanted to go off and blow shit up. So it's not me. Not me at all.
You made me invested in him much more than sort of like, I mean, the gameplay was great. I love that gameplay, but
Thank you, man.
your performance made me care about it. And that as players, we can step into those performances. That's the thing that is so remarkable about the acting you do in this art form. And
Thank you.
when you're landing these performances, how present is that when you're actually doing it, or are you just there acting? Or are you thinking about the players, or is it? I mean, how does that land? Because it's certainly different from like when you were on the TV show for The Last of Us, I would think.
Sure. I think that for the longest time, I was so worried about where is camera, what is happening,
Mm.
um, what will the player think? And I think as I've gotten older,
Mm.
I've learned to just kind of those are machinations that may be happening subconsciously. But at the end of the day, all I have to worry about is what is this moment? Because, and this is one of the biggest fights that I have a lot of times with narrative directors or even cinematics directors, is because if you think about the role of a director in a film, you can have an auteur in film or TV. You can have a David Lynch, or you can have a Mike Flanagan, or you can have these people that this is my vision, this is what I'm putting down.
Mm.
Um, there are a few of those in video games, but really that vision must be immediately bifurcated to multiple people, because
Yeah.
now you have the overall vision of what the game is going to be, but then you need someone who understands design to be the design director. You need someone
Mm.
who understands narrative to be the narrative director. But all of those things, especially, if you talk about going into The Last of Us Part 2. So
Yeah.
Last of Us Part 1 comes, no, it was not even Part 1, it's just the first game.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, we knew that we were making something that was of quality and that was good, but we didn't know how good it was going to be, how well it was going to be received. Certainly didn't know it was going to flash forward to over a decade later and being the largest HBO show. None of us could have predicted that.
Whoa. I
And then yeah, it's the biggest budget, largest show. It had the largest launch last season. It had over 100 million people watch that show. It's
whoa.
insane.
It's
Concurrently,
amazing.
concurrently.
Yeah.
So when we go step foot on to do The Last of Us Part 2, uh-oh, we're a hit, and we are burdened with the
Right.
success. And so what I have to do as an actor is realize Joel isn't in a video game. He has no idea of any of these things. So if I'm inhabiting that role, I do that between action and cut.
Right.
Nothing else exists.
Right.
And then I love Al Pacino said this. He was like, I inhabit the role and they all cut and I go have a sandwich. It's like I don't there's some people that they live that character for however long
Yeah.
they have it. That's not me, man. I from action to cut, I'm a different human. And then cut and I'm laughing. I love hanging out with my crew. You will always see me with my camera crew or my stunts. Those are the two people that I always hang out with, or the audio people.
So I was clued on recently to your songs for Joel thing. I mean, I know that you have been like one of my favorite DVD extras in video game history was you and Courtney Draper at the end of Bioshock
Yeah.
Infinite. Oh God, damn, that was good, dude. That was
That
really,
was
really good.
a that was a pure that was inspired by Ken Levine. Ken was the one who came up with this idea, and it just happened to be lightning in a bottle. That was a very hard day, specifically for Courtney Draper. She was in the process of losing her grandfather. Her grandfather was like, I
oh,
think, passing when we were recording this. And
damn.
so it's a deeply emotional thing, and you feel that baked into that moment. So that's where you get these beautiful moments. And then all of a sudden, Troy playing guitar in songs became a thing. um, because we're doing Bioshock Infinite
Yeah.
at the same time we're doing The Last of Us.
Oh,
Can't talk
okay.
about each other.
Right.
Um, and then Ken Levine has this moment, and one day on set, like at lunch, Neil goes, "What would you have done if you hadn't been an actor?" And I said, "Well, I was going to be a singer." And he asks Ashley the same question. He goes, "Well, what would you have done?" And she just, without missing a beat, she just goes, "Astronaut." We're like, "Yeah, that tracks."
That's
So
great.
that's why you have Ellie that loves space, and you have Joel that plays guitar was going to be a singer. So
Oh, dude,
when
that's
The Last of
amazing.
Us, yeah. So when The Last of Us Part Two came out, I, like a lot of people, um, found myself missing Joel.
Mhm.
And here we were in the pandemic, and so uh, being a musician, I picked up a guitar, and that's how I was expressing myself.
Right.
So I wrote all of these songs, and they've just sat there. And I finally found the right producer, my friend, producer named C Ray, who is well known for hip hop, but he's also just a brilliant producer, and he understands the musicality, he understands the story of the song. So he and I have been going in with a bunch of different players, incredible, incredible musicians. And I'm literally, as soon as we get off this, I'm heading over to the studio to put the finishing touches on another song. And we recorded all these songs that were these songs that I wrote for Joel. And it's not necessarily, here's Joel in these songs, but you'll hear Joel in these songs because it's
I
me.
get it.
And these are songs that are inspired by The Last of Us. And so we get to explore themes like, what does it look like for Joel to be in love? What does it look like for Joel to wrestle with his relationship with Tommy? Um,
Right.
so it's been a fun, very cathartic process for me, and I'm excited for people to hear him.
Yeah, man. So I saw the thing you guys did most recently, like about a month ago. Was that in Austin?
I was in Houston, yeah.
Houston. And I'm like, my God, I hope he does this absolutely everywhere because man, I would think that it was such a rad thing. Because I don't exactly know everything in how HBO works. But I do remember on the last season of Last of Us, there was a companion podcast that I particularly enjoyed.
Yes.
Uh,
We are
what,
doing that
what,
again this year.
there you go.
I'm very grateful that they asked me to come back. So I will be sitting down after each episode with Neil and Craig and kind of getting into the discussion of, and honestly, one of the best benefits from this is I learned something about it. And I really do hope that people listen. I get $0 if you listen or if you don't listen. But it's more about because I've gleaned so much information about seeing these characters in this story from a different perspective.
Mm,
It really is to me an amazing lens to view things through, especially when we start dealing with some of the more controversial topics that are, endemic to The Last of Us Part Two. It's
Yeah.
an amazing conversation to hear from them and to hear from the creators certain decisions that they made and choices that they made and how they executed them.
Uh, I can't remember the name of the actor, but did you ever see HBO's Deadwood?
Of course, I've
Okay.
watched that show religiously. Which character?
Okay, so the guy who shot Billy the Kid also appeared later as and I'm like, does that
Garrett Delahunt, man. Garrett Delahunt. And I have said to him so many times, I was like, I want you to know that I used you as a print to go to Craig Mazin and said, they brought Garrett back in season 3 of Deadwood.
dude?
And again, Craig's response was, great, give me Garrett's number.
Oh,
He is so good and is specifically in that role. And it's just a completely, I mean, he's an anomalous actor, but the fact that he was able to completely transform, and most people was like, oh my God, that was the
yeah,
same person.
yeah. Could completely agree. I know you got to jump. I'm looking forward to listening to the podcast.
Thank you,
Uh,
man.
Good luck on your upcoming projects. Is there anything you can tell us about? I know there's some things you can't say, some things you can't say.
Sure. I mean, I'm very happy that finally, if you haven't experienced Indiana Jones, it's coming to PlayStation 5 next week, as a matter of fact, this month. And we have Death Stranding 2, which will be coming out later this summer. But then also, hopefully, fingers crossed, if everything goes well with the streamers, we should have the first song from these Songs of Joel will be up day and date with the season 2 premiere of The Last of Us.
I know you got stuff to do, but I have to say I was a little concerned. I love Death Stranding, and Higgs was. I just love that character. I love that
Yes.
character. When I heard there was going to be a new Death Stranding, I was a little concerned. I'm like, but what if it's not weird enough? And then I saw the trailer, and I'm like,
No worries.
yeah,
We got you covered. We
yeah,
got you covered.
so handled. Do you have a specific website for the Songs for Joel thing? Because I really would love people to see that because it's very cool.
Yeah, it should be up wherever you listen to music, whether it be Apple or Spotify. It should be up hopefully on April 13th. If not, it'll be but hopefully the following week. It's up to the
Awesome,
streamer.
man. I've really fucking appreciated the stuff that you've done. And I love that the people who are the actors in your form of art are now finally starting to get their due. The things that Neil, who was done with that EW Pixel Pack, or like you, and I'm like,
Oh, dude, Neil Newbon is the best of us.
dude,
He and Ben Starr are going to be the two people that just usher us into a new era. They're amazing humans, absolutely amazing humans.
yeah, man. It's kind of like it's like things change with The Last of Us for video games and narrative in video games, and clearly with HBO doing so many seasons of this, that's very much true. But I always kind of felt like someone's going to break through on this. Someone's going to break through on this, and to see that whole thing. And
Yeah.
now, like with so many characters being so close physically to the actors and back of them, I don't know. I talked to Tom Kenny, and he said it's cool being Tom Kenny because I get to be SpongeBob. Also, I don't look like SpongeBob.
Right.
Yeah.
He gets to have some anonymity. There is, it's fun when you get recognized. Other times it's like, man, I just want to kind of be out with my family. But
Totally.
fortunately, everyone is really, really kind. And I think
Mhm.
that there's not a lot of times when I look at what Pedro Pascal gets and I'm like, you can have that, homie.
Oh, dude.
Um,
Yeah.
and he hates it too. But there's a beauty in the anonymity to where I love sitting and hearing people talk about The Last of Us or Indiana Jones or whatever,
Mm.
and being able to go, you don't even know.
So I talked to Kenny. He was doing an appearance here in Phoenix, and I said, do you ever just bust out the SpongeBob voice on people? And he says in the SpongeBob voice, with great power comes great responsibility. And he said the last time he did it actually was on Halloween. Him and his wife, they all live in Burbank, and
Yeah.
some little kids came up, and he did the SpongeBob voice to them. And he said one kid was like, and the mom was like, and the other kid was like, and the guy goes, "Are you really SpongeBob?" "Well, I guess I am." Kid looked at him, turned, and ran like he was on fire because he could because he was so
Yeah,
surprised with
most
his
kids,
voice.
it's lost on them. You're like, hey, I'm whatever. Like I'm
Right.
Jonesy in Fortnite. And people are like, what does that mean? Like Jonesy exists on my screen. You're not Jonesy. I was like, yeah, but most kids, like the day that I can impress my 6-year-old, That's a banner day. That's all that I'm going for. If I can impress my wife or my son, I don't need to impress anybody else. I'm good.
Oh, dude, totally. All right, Troy. Hey, man, I'm gonna wrap this up. Thank you so much. You have a great day. All right.
Thank you, brother. Talk to you soon.
See ya.
Cheers.